We're here. Community All Unite TV, Comcast Cable, Channel 190, every Thursday from 8 to 8:30. And we have another special guest to come to bless us with some information. He has a book that he just put out that's Bridge the Gaps. Yo, and even I love the artwork on it. That's a beautiful thing. Actually, we have an artist in the room. Imani's in the room. She should do my book cover. I'm gonna do a book. Look, I'm gonna have a book coming out at the end of 2018, and I'm gonna need an artist for my. You gonna do it, Imani? Sure. All right. Yes. Imani's Mahasin's daughter. She's actually here viewing the show. We got an audience today. Where's the clapping? Yes. I like that. We got Jonathan Frejuste.
Got it.
I got it. I said it with power too,
Absolutely.
didn't I?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I met. How many years ago has it been since I was 3 years now? 4 years.
Yeah.
And I brought him over to the Covenant House. He bonded with a couple of the young men there. He spit some fire on them, freestyled some because he's a dual talent. No, triple threat. He's got the authorship. He's a financial genius. And he could spit bars.
What?
I don't know. You didn't want me to tell that.
You might have to drop
if we have enough time, I might ask you to spit some freestyle about your book.
I'll be all right.
Good.
Just stay ready. You ain't gotta get ready.
You gotta
There you
stay
go.
ready.
I'm ready.
You gotta do it.
I'm ready.
I love it.
Cool.
So you tell them a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So thank you for having me, Mahasin and Chris. My name's Jonathan Frejuste. So financial planner turned life coach, social worker. Just a brother that loves people. Want to see change in my community, and I wrote this book, Bridge the Gaps, to start a conversation about healing from some of the stuff that we've been through growing up. So
Cool.
that's my fight.
And we just got finished talking a little bit about the book, and tell us about the 5 points that you're trying to discuss in the book.
Yeah, absolutely. So the book's Bridge the Gaps, lessons on self-awareness, self-development, self-care. Self-care has 13 chapters, but there are 5 chapters in particular that deal with community issues. As we all know, hurt people hurt people. So 5 issues that I tackled. I could have tackled a whole lot more, but these are the 5 that I think cover a lot of bases. Fatherlessness, colorism, sexual abuse, mental illness, and mass incarceration. So my goal is to break the stigma with all these issues. And I think if we begin to have these conversations, people feel safe.
Right.
And we start to realize that we're all more similar than we thought. And what unites us in a lot of ways is the things that we've been through. And if we can collectively build community around healing, then we can build stronger bonds. So having these conversations is really important to me.
I think so. Now there's a direction in this book that it was kind of different than a normal book. It has worksheets in it where you fill out information. I guess it's to get more self-aware. What are the reasons why these exercises are in the book? And
Yeah, absolutely. Reflection is so important. I mean, wisdom comes from taking time to think through the things. So, when you get to write down, it actually triggers parts of your brain that make you remember more. So the prefrontal cortex is like a science behind it. But it just helps you to stop and reflect and think through. The reason why it has these 3 topics is, self-awareness is to be more reflective. Self-development is to be productive. And self-care is to be attentive. So I think they go in that order. They build on each other. So before you can intensely pursue anything in life, like your goals, you want to clearly perceive. You want to know who you are, and then you want to know what you want to do. So self-awareness is designed to do that. So the definition I have for self-awareness is having a conscious knowledge of your calling, your purpose. Everybody has a calling and a mission, but also your talents. What are you good at? You'd be surprised how many people walk around not knowing what they're great at, and they have so many gifts that are untapped, and they think they're just, I ain't know. I thought everybody could do this. And it's like, no. When you do this really well, and we can help brothers and sisters to develop that conscious knowledge of your values, your belief system, so that you can chart your course in the world with intentionality.
There's something that's really, I guess, encompasses this whole exercise of the book, of you coming on the air and saying who you are and what you've gone through. It's fear that you've overcome. How did you overcome the fear in your life?
Oh man, I crashed and burned. So in 2009, I got a DUI, and I was living life. I was, working a job in corporate America, working 90 hours a week. I wasn't, going to church. I wasn't doing the things that I knew I had to do to take care of myself. And I got a DUI, and from there, I knew something was wrong. I was in a jail cell with the cuff to the bench, and I wish I had the mirror of the video in the cell. I was like, oh my God. So for the first time, I was actually cuffed because I grew up in the hood seeing brothers go to prison, but that was never my story. I had a family to protect me from that. I had a church community to protect me from that. So for the first time, I saw what it was like to lose my freedom. So I'm like, if this is what people go through, I don't want anybody to go through this.
Yeah.
So I made that decision to reorganize my life. And then I started going to counseling. I sat down with a counselor at a church. It was a free counseling program. Fortunately, a competent counselor who just let me talk. And for the first time, I'm talking about things I never talked about before. Things I've seen, things I experienced, things I did. And in that, it was like, yo, this is the best feeling in the world. But why don't I feel safe to talk to other people about it? Because we don't really have the tools to love. To love. Because a lot of times, my parents, they did the best they could. But they made some mistakes. Yeah. All our parents, this our common denominator. None of our parents are perfect. They meant well, but they didn't always do right. So in the book, I also talk about safe people, chapter 33 on boundaries and safe people. Just learning how to love, learning how to protect people's confidences. If you always telling somebody else's business, how can I trust you with mine? So learning to be safe in that way, learning to set healthy expectations and set boundaries. So for me, that was kind of how I overcame the fear. Counseling and then just facing it.
Are there any personal experiences that you wanted to disclose or discuss which helped you and prompt you to write this book?
Absolutely. So when I was 27, it's about 4 years ago, I started having flashbacks dealing with sexual abuse memories that I really couldn't see clearly, but I know emotionally I was terrified, like this paranoia, almost like, like growing up, you get in fights and you see gunshots. It's almost like trauma in that way. You start to remember all those sensations and the feelings, and then I said, something's wrong. So I went to counseling and I started dealing with all the effects, and I thought I was crazy. And then I started learning about people who had different stories, just like me. Keon Dooling, the basketball player, 12-year, the best professional. He had to retire early because he was dealing with the effects of sexual abuse. Tyler Perry, Sugar Ray Leonard, the boxer. They all talked about those experiences, and his was kind of similar to mine. And for me, it was like trying to lift the stigma. So when I saw these brothers who I think are good brothers and I respect them, they're talking about it. I'm like, so let me have courage to talk about it as well. And I did a stint as a social worker for about 2 years as a life skills coach. And about 80% of the kids have been sexually violated.
Wow.
8 out of 10. So, here's me. I don't have any agenda. I just want to help people. I'm asking a question. I'm asking everybody. Did you know about this? And everybody's like, yeah. And they're saying, me too. And I'm like, who'd you talk to? And everyone says nobody. I said, why? Because I didn't feel safe.
Right.
So all these people are walking around.
How old were you when that happened?
I was 12. I was 12. So I never talked to my parents because I was afraid of what might happen, and you just kept it quiet, and you just went about your business. Tuck it in the back of your head. Grow up in the hood, learn to be tough, learn to fight through it, go to school, mind your business, and that's it. And that was the healthiest approach.
Right.
So that's my fight, particularly for parents, so that your kids feel safe to talk to you. Because they don't feel like you're going to reprimand them or hurt them, that you really are there to help them process what they're going through.
I mean, I'm really now understanding that this is so prevalent that I had a friend that was sexually abused by a babysitter, and he had to have counseling and all that, and it changed his whole dynamic. He was on medication and everything, and it probably drove him to, when he got older, into alcoholism and some drugs, and you had to go through everything. Changes your whole life. So how did that change your life?
For me, I mean, even now, I think there are moments when you just feel, in relationships, intimacy takes longer. It's harder for me to trust people. So, but learning the tools and the skills to identify safe people, I developed that community. Like with you, when we talk, I feel like you get it. You're safe, and you genuinely have a heart for people. You're not trying to use people. So having an eye for safe people is really important for me. And sometimes that emotional pain, that feeling of loneliness, can drive you to things like liquor or inappropriate sexual relationships, just even drama in relationships, turmoil. A lot of that is from unresolved pain. So for me, the woundedness in a way is a gift,
right?
Because now I can understand other people's pain better. So that's kind of how it affected me.
When's your birthday?
September 30.
Because what sign is that?
I'm a Libra.
Because sometimes that has a connection to folks that are sensitive about other people's pain. I'm finding that I have to grow a little bit to be more sensitive to other people's. I think about, I'm not saying I don't love everybody, but the things that I say and the way people are perceiving it or responding to it, I need to think about that more. I think everything that I'm doing is love.
Right.
But people are looking at me like, yo, you don't have no boundaries.
That's real.
Yo, I'm just saying, hey, and I like being transparent with the show because people have to learn how to respect other people, and now hopefully they'll learn that, in this conversation. I mean, that's probably part of the things that you have in the book, and how the things you do affect other people.
Absolutely. So that's a great point, and that's great that you got aware of it because we judge ourselves by our intention.
Yes.
Other people judge us by our actions. I don't care what you intended to do. You violated my boundary.
Yeah.
So there's actually an acronym in the book called CASUAL. I talk about casual friends. There's an acronym. So C is for clarify assumptions and clear up expectations. So imagine, we're talking every night. We're friends, and we get used to talking on the phone. Yeah. And every day we just catching up, and then one day you don't call me, and I'm like, he ain't called me today. Well, I set an expectation where it wasn't conscious, it wasn't agreed upon, it wasn't spoken, but I had the expectation. So a lot of times in life, we're not disappointed by what we find, but about what we expected to find. Yeah. So let's set the expectations that are appropriate. Avoiding judgment. Let's not act like we're superior to anybody. Right. But for the grace of God, I could be anywhere. I could be doing anything. I could be in the street like a lot of dudes running around doing the wrong things, but I could be doing the same thing. Yeah. Secret keepers, protecting people's secrets. A lot of times people share other people's confidences in the name of them trying to help them. Did you hear about so-and-so? He in rehab, right? And it's like, you ain't supposed to be telling his business like that. And then setting limits. So like boundaries, you teach people how to treat you. Like, don't talk to me that way. Don't touch me that way. You told me to be here at 12:30. I respect your time. Right. So making sure that you set limits in that way, and also being undivided. I'm the same person everywhere I go. Right. Like I might conduct myself differently at a barbecue in corporate America, but I'm still the same person. I got the same value systems. Some people are just two different people. Yeah. And you want to make sure that you have a consistency, because when you change up, I can't trust you. I don't know who you are. Right. And I think that we kind of learn to be fake in that way in some ways, but we have to take responsibility to be consistent. I'm the same person no matter what.
That's Now you mentioned about setting expectations. You believe in setting expectations, or you don't?
I do.
You do. Well, do you think setting expectations leaves room for disappointment? So if I have an expectation for you, like you mentioned earlier, calling me at a certain time and you don't, I'm disappointed. You didn't call me. Right. So my feelings are hurt. You understand where I'm going with that? So absolutely. Some people can take it two different ways to set expectations or to not. Me personally, I try not to set expectations. That's just me. So everybody's different.
That's why you got to get the book. So there's a valid expectation, and then there's an invalid expectation. A valid expectation has 4 characteristics. It's conscious. You know you have it. It's agreed upon. It's realistic, and it's spoken. Does that make sense?
It does.
So if you say, "Yo, you gonna call me tomorrow?" I'm like, "Nah. If I don't call you, you can't have that expectation." So it has to be spoken. And a lot of times we have expectations about common things like, you coming to my house for Christmas dinner? And it's like, no. What you mean? We do this every year. Well, we never said that we were going to keep doing it. Things change, but because of that expectation. So it has to be spoken. And for me, I really want to help us have uncomfortable conversations. The relationship is going to be as healthy as your ability to have uncomfortable conversations.
Yes. You sound like you could have been a
talk
therapist.
About it. Yes.
I've been through a lot, man.
Let's talk about it.
You were a counselor for a little while, you said?
Yeah, so a life coach. So I'm an emotional intelligence coach, and a social worker. So they give us so many classes, and you learn so many amazing things about just the human soul. And we're complicated, and people need safety.
So why did you go the financial expert route instead?
Because I ain't have self-awareness.
Yeah.
So when I was like 15, I was a high school kid. High school was like a really weird time. I wasn't an athlete. I wasn't just a good basketball player. Was I a jock? Was I an artist? I'm just a regular guy. And they're like, "What do you want to do when you grow up?" I'm like, "I don't know. I want to be a teacher. I like people. I could get along with all types of people. So I went to my pops, old school Haitian man. Had my heart open like, Dad, when I grow up, I want to be a teacher. Yo, he yelled at me like I said I wanted to be a murderer. Because in his mind, there's no money in teaching. And, you know, he was more focused. I mean, his story is he came from Haiti when he was 19, and he saw that you needed to be financially on point. And that was one side of it. That was right. But he also didn't show me how I could make money in teaching. He just shut it down. And a lot of people are, you know, doing things that they don't want to do because their parents kind of, you know, shunned one of their careers, or they just left their family to pursue their own dreams. So I'm saying, you know, self-awareness is important because you want to have a conscious knowledge of what you're called to do. I'm called to be a teacher, a coach, a counselor, a conversation starter. And it took me a long time to get there. So I majored in accounting and finance. And I lost my hair in the process. And it was stressful. But I learned a lot. And, you know, sometimes it's not your destination, but your transportation. So even if you work in a job you don't want to work at, you're learning a lot. And all the pain and all the frustration, you can transfer to the next stage of life. So my 10 years in corporate America helped me right now because I learned about people in that world. And that world needs a lot of counseling as well. People don't know it, but a lot of people there are struggling. And we all need help. So for me, accounting and finance was my start, but it's not my end.
Now, you mentioned earlier about your father yelling at you. Do you think he wasn't emotionally there for what you wanted to do? And what is the difference between emotional and physical, being there as a father?
Right.
You know, being emotionally there and physically there for their child.
That's a great question. He wasn't emotionally available. You know, every parent is like, it's like a football field. Like my great grandfather was on the 0-yard line. My grandfather was on the 10. My dad was on the 20, and hopefully I'm going to be on the 30. There's some things that he didn't get growing up. He never got listened. He didn't listen to his heart. You know, he grew up in a boarding school in Haiti. And I heard one professor say that when you're away from your parents for 8 months out of the year, it's like child abuse because there's no relationship. So for my dad, his improvement was that he sees his kids every day, but there was no interaction. There was no, Dad, I'm sad. He's like, there's none of that. You know, my dad was like a policeman, and he taught me to be disciplined, but there was never a connection. And now that he's getting older, he's reflecting. He's like, oh man, I got some regrets. So that's kind of helping us build the bond again. But as we were young, he was just trying to get it, just trying to make it. So there was so he didn't listen to our pains, didn't help us process tough emotions, didn't model good examples of relationships, resolving conflict with family members. So all those things I learned, unhealthy ways of living. So I have to unlearn that.
Right.
So
Okay.
that's a great question.
You're still unlearning
I'm about
that?
to cry all day.
Yeah.
All of life. I mean, a lot of learning is unlearning.
Right.
There's a lot of ways. So my pastor says that Jesus is in your heart, but Grandpa's in your bones. So you think you good. I mean, not everybody's a Christian, but in that context, it's like spiritually, you think you're fine, and you know you got all the stuff inside of you that you may not even realize, and at the right moment, it's going to come up in some other ways. So even your belief system, like what do you believe about success? Is it about making money, even if you're a grimy person? So you have to really identify that, because I think success is being the person that God called you to be, serving people, and going about your business. Some people are like, yeah, but you ain't got M's like me. And I'm like, well, did you compromise yourself in the process? So things like that, I'm realizing I still have to unlearn some of those belief systems.
Right.
You know, even beliefs on, you know, relationships. Don't trust anybody. They'll hurt you. Never be vulnerable. Well, how does that play out in marriage and relationships?
Right.
And you got people in marriages that are alone, and it's an epidemic. So for me, a lot of that is unlearning. Even now. Yeah. So, you know, a part of the work is staying aware and building community when we have these conversations. So,
you know, actually, it's funny. When you start a project like this, Community All Unite TV, when you start a project like this and you have intentions in your heart of, one, he said, about feeling the fear, you know, when you remove fear, you fill your heart with love. I mean, that's something I've been saying, like almost, haven't I said that in the show?
Right.
And then talk about Community All Unite and him building a community. It's like the magnet that brings universal law, the law of attraction that brings these people to the show is just, it's crazy. So you know that I'm true in my intentions with this, right? Mahasin is an excellent example of being true in your intentions, because of course she was drawn to the idea, and then she's been bringing so many great, phenomenal guests to this whole platform, and I'm hoping that we get the sponsorship to make this into a broader base, because it's necessary. These young folks need to hear it, and we look, today we have young folks in the house learning about learning about this. So when we move this thing to the platform that we want, where we're bringing it into schools, and we'll sit this thing right in front of the auditorium and have these conversations, have young folks at the table. This is what the vision is. Right. It ain't supposed to be just here.
Right.
It's supposed to be broadened and making his information that he's sharing right now into an available space for all the young folks to get. You know? Because that's something that it should be a book that's in schools. Because these things, we just talked about it. Over 80% of young folks are dealing with these situations.
Absolutely.
I have friends now. They're adults. I'll make their names known because, except one. I'll make one because she's also a spokesperson. Her name is Aziza Gabibi. She has her own radio show. She does lectures talking about how her father had molested her for several years, and she had babies by her father. And I'm saying, I'm just starting to really realize that so many people I'm connected to have dealt with the same situations.
Yep. Absolutely.
So I'm just surprised that I don't know if it's because of the fact that if this is something that happened in Africa, because I'd like to really find that out. Because all I hear about Africa right now is love. I hear about community. I keep on saying, oh, I wish it was, this culture that we're in, this system that we're in is causing all this stuff that's bleeding into our mind and our bones, so to speak. But was it back then too?
I feel like abuse is an equal opportunity offender. Black, white, rich, poor. Yeah. I see it in every single culture in some kind of way. The culture dictates whether it comes out or not. So the beautiful thing about our world, and kind of the scary thing, is social media. Because now people are finding a voice, and anybody can say what they want to say, and everybody's going to hear it. And now that voice, that's how the Me Too movement started. Yeah. Somebody said, I forgot who the person was who started it, but she said, if you've been afflicted by sexual abuse, if you've been abused in some kind of way, just click like, and millions of people are coming out, and that just shifted the culture. You saw Hollywood and what happened there. You saw the Catholic Church years ago with the abuse of the priests and how they try to cover it up. So I think it's an equal opportunity offender. Yeah. So making people feel safe everywhere is my goal, and bringing people to justice, and also helping people who are inclined to offend. Because I know there's like a breeding ground for hatred of that group. And it's easy to do that when you're dealing with the pain of it. It's hard. So the maturity comes in seeing that we've all been affected in some kind of way. So we have to keep learning, keep growing, and help support people who are afflicted by it.
Did you bring your offender to justice?
I didn't even know who he was. I didn't know who he was.
Oh, you don't know how to track him down? You don't want to track him down. It's living in the
This
past.
was years ago. I was actually on a bus. I was actually on a bus when it happened. And he was a Haitian guy. And I grew up in a Haitian church, so I thought it was safe like that. And then that's when, it happened. And I walked off the bus, and he touched me inappropriately. And that changed everything. It was almost like, they call it dissociation. So it was like I was looking down at myself, like I separated from myself. And from there, I just left. And that was it. That was it. And there were other moments after that, but that was the real changing moment for me. Fortunately, it wasn't somebody in my family, which is a lot of the case, like an uncle or a cousin or a father or a mother, unfortunately. But for me, it was somebody I didn't even know. And, so that was it. After that, it shifted everything. And I just acted like it didn't happen. And then years ago, I'm like, oh my God. I just suppressed all this stuff. I imagine if I didn't deal with it until later in life, it could have, blown up in ugly ways. So.
Why do you think it's so challenging for black men to come forward and be honest about their experiences that they've had in the past? Is it a fear of being weak or being homosexual that people may perceive black men that way? Why is it so challenging?
That is absolutely. You know it already.
Yeah.
So you already know the answer. You answered the
question.
That
was the answer for
it? Absolutely. And you echo, some of the things that brothers are feeling. Nobody wants to be perceived as weak. Masculinity, as the way we were taught, is being tough, not showing emotion, certainly not demonstrating vulnerability or weakness. And And frankly, the community just wasn't safe. You know, growing up in Northern New Jersey, you ain't telling nobody you've been through something like that. Right. And so for me, the way, and I'm not a naturally tough guy. I'm not a gangster. I was raised around a lot of tough guys. So for me, it was just like nobody's doing anything to me ever in life. After that, I just decided it wasn't gonna happen. I'm just gonna go to school, mind my business, and I'm gonna keep my family close to me, my people, so, you know, my friends and family close to me, and that was my safety. But you just never felt comfortable, even share to your closest loved ones. And a lot of people weren't equipped. You know, a lot of people didn't have the tools. You know, to even with career development, they didn't have the tools. Imagine something deeply emotional like sexual abuse or mental illness. Folks don't really talk about it. So that stigma is just so large, and I just want to break that. Now it's breaking. Now it's breaking. But you still have brothers who are still scared to talk about it for fear of judgment. Nobody wants to be judged. Right. Nobody wants to be judged or treated a certain kind of way. So that's
interesting. Now there was the 5 pieces to this. One of them, you said it was the coloration. Colorism. Yeah. So what made you put that in the book?
Because I still see the effects of it. I mean, we make a lot of jokes: light skin, dark skin. My mother's light skin, my father's dark skin. You know, she acting light skin. You like Drake. You know, like people make.
That seems like it's something far left.
So colorism is a spin-off of racism. It was the belief that if you had lighter skin, you had like a golden ticket. You had it better in life, and it comes from slavery. But colorism affects every region: South America, Indian culture, African culture. One of the most popular products is skin bleaching. A lot of people are skin bleaching and really hurting themselves because they haven't accepted themselves as they are. And for us, it comes from the notion of white supremacy. So we're still living with that notion of white supremacy. So my mother's light skinned and my dad's dark skinned. If you ask my dad, do light skinned people get better treatment? He's like, absolutely. If you ask my mom, she's like, you still black. So she has like that, you know, light skin supremacy, if you will. But the reason why is really because I know dark skinned people who made life decisions because they didn't feel valuable enough to say, I don't want to get that job. They're not going to hire me. I'm too dark skinned. Because now it's affecting people at the soul level. So we can joke about it, but if it affects you at the soul level, you got to talk about it. Yeah. Because now it's affecting your destiny. Because you feel like you're not worth it. And I don't know if you saw Black Panther.
Yeah.
It was all my dark skinned sisters in the movie.
Right.
And that broke the stigma.
It did.
It broke a lot of the stigma. And the goal is not to pit light skin versus dark skin. Every color is beautiful. Light skin, but a pecan, you know, chocolate. We need all the colors to be represented and to be acknowledged as beautiful. So I love what I'm seeing with the changes, but it's still a lot of work. So we have to acknowledge history to learn from.
Right, and so that was you included that because of the overarching community uniting type of theme with everything you're doing. Right?
Absolutely.
Got it.
Absolutely.
All right, well, tell them where they'll find you and find the books. I don't want to.
Can't wait to read this.
Oh yeah, Bridge the Gap. So it's on Amazon. My website is www.thebridge330.com. So thebridge330.com.
Are you interested in mentoring young folks? I know you are.
I do it all day.
Yeah?
I do it all day.
All right, well.
Impromptu and formally, so yeah.
Wisdom shapes minds. You've already done it with us, and you, of course, I don't know if you have.
I'm bringing you to Plainfield.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. All right.
Yeah, you're coming to Plainfield.
Okay.
Yeah. Just putting it out there.
Okay, thank you.
Good. And you have any other questions?
No.
Yes, this is one of the most important parts of our segment, right? Because Community All Unite TV ain't somebody coming up from above. We are part of the grassroots here. We do the things. We go into the spots, the crevices where there's darkness, and we shine light. Right. We shine a light on them. Because I want to, you said, the only way you're going to solve the problem, the only way you're going to heal the community is if you put it out there so we can see it. Right? I mean, the bad thing that the president is doing for us right now, Chump, and I'm going to bring it Chump, I call him Chump, is because, he's showing us that the personality and integrity of a president is so important, and his world is different. But I know he's learning. He's getting counseled. Every day he looks at his TV and he sees this craziness. But I'm saying that to be saying that we got to do this and shine a light on these issues. And I'm glad it's happening because that's the only way we're going to filter it. And my man is here right now. He spits bars. I ain't telling him I'm doing some music. I'm going to get him on one of my tracks. I'm gonna get him on more tracks, and I want you to just spit a little bit about your experience here, your book. And I don't know if it's. I know he freestyles, so I know he could do something.
Oh,
and then
man.
I could do the beatbox if you need me. I'll do the beat when we come up with a beat for you.
Let me hear it. See what you got.
Let's see.
Let me hear what you... Nah.
No, I can't do that. I used to do it back in the day.
I do acapella.
You were the techno.
Well, you need some music in the background?
No, I think I got it. I think I got some acapella. I want him to hear me.
Okay.
If I can get ready. I said, I'm not a follower. I live as a student. I peep game and come to my own conclusions. Righteousness is the style of my life, and I'm increasing my knowledge as I trust in the Christ. I got a vision for my future, because life with no plan just leads to more confusion. I got a vision for my fam and a vision for the dudes in my hood to get a plan. We got to keep moving. My brother's getting killed for nothing. We keep losing. My homie lost his brother thinking about revenge for him. His mother crying every day is still wearing on him. Got families living with stress. If I got to tap for all the brothers I lost, there won't be room left. It's hard in the hood living. I came back and I put something good in it. And I'm feeling like the time's right to spit verses so my people could get their mind right. Like what's so crazy to me? Slaves got killed just for learning how to read. Conclusion, your education is important. They got killed for getting knowledge that could change your life for certain. And what's even so ironic, they paying for the prisons, they not paying for your college. It's like they want us to fail because they building less schools and they building more jails. You got to think that they don't like us. They just want us to go through the same cycles. We were on slave blocks getting whipped and chained in. Now we on the blocks with the whips and chains in. We got to stop hustling backwards and focus on the generation that'll come after. Lift your brother as you climb the ladder because that's black saving black. Shout out to Black Lives Matter. Don't let them throw us in the junkyard. They thought they won it all when they played the Trump card. Because cops were killing brothers with impunity. I'm going crazy, don't know what they about to do to me. Like 12 years a slave, thought we were free blacks till one racist act to bring us right back. And I could forgive Steve Harvey, but first he gotta read Marcus Garvey. Got a plan for everything that's coming next. By any means, you gotta read Malcolm X. Sometimes we sit to stand and that plays a part. Strong sister, we call her Rosa Parks. We gotta stop playing victim, stop accepting that we trapped in the system. We on the block, we still ripping and running. We gotta run for freedom like Harriet Tubman. We on the block moving snow, about to get jammed up in that new Jim Crow. Taking chances because you young and dumb. The judge is going to wash you up and then you want to run. So last word to my brothers on the block. Dr. King wanted kings on the mountaintop. And me, I don't fear no more. I ain't afraid to die because I know what I'm here for. I'm like Cleo in that Turner. I'm patiently waiting. Just waiting to set it off like Birth of a Nation. Because I've been to more funerals than graduations. We got to change it up if we going to change the nation. I was spiritually stuck because religion brings you down. But Jesus lifts you up. So to my brothers with lost vision and no hope, I tell them get back to dreaming but stay woke. You know these racists fed us these self-hating lies so we can hurt each other and kill our own kind. I'm trying to be like Martin and Malcolm combined so we can fight the hatred that plagues us inside. First things first, we got to get back our pride. Then we can mobilize and fight the hate outside. Second thing, all our actions got to be wise, and Lord knows it all starts with God. So third thing, focus on the Christ, and when the enemy throws shade, you stand in the light. Fourth, if you were raised with lack, you got to compensate for what you didn't get growing up and bridge the gaps.
You see what we doing? Community All Unite TV, we doing it.
Hey,
Did you? We didn't have a. You said that.
I know.
I like that.
Go get it. Go get it.
Yes. Thank you, Jonathan.
That was
Thank
amazing.
you. Absolutely.
Yes.
Comcast Cable Channel 190 every Thursday from 8 to 8:30. Check it out.
That's right.
All right.
See you soon.
Yes.
That was fun.
Hello, I'm Chris Sanders.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Mahasin El-amin,
And welcome to Community All Unite TV. Some of the topics we'll be discussing are community issues, education, entrepreneurship, and
entertainment, health, and wellness. If you would like to discuss any community issues, please contact us at the website shown below.
And be sure to tune in every Thursday on Comcast Cable Channel 190. Remember, Community All Unite TV, coming to a city near you, buddy. And I like it a lot.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.